This stitch is going to be the fly stitch. I have marked 3 parallel lines as a guide. You don't necessarily have to do that, but it's a good way to learn it when you're first starting. I'm going to come up on one of the outside parallel lines. Whichever one is more comfortable for you is fine. And and it helps if you have a knot. So I come up on one of the outside lines. I'm going to go down in the other outside line directly across from where I came up. Then my needle is going to come up on the center line. Make sure your thread is below the needle or under it. And I'm at this point making basically a V shape. So that is the first V. I'm going to come down on the center line, however long I want, or however much space I want between my stitches. I'm going to come down on here. I'm going to come back up on an outside line, pull it up, directly across on the other outside line. I'm going to go back down, and now I'm going to come back up in the hole where I went down on the leg of my Y. And again, I go down on that center line, however far apart I want my fly stitches to be. And come up on one of the outside lines, straight across to the other outside line, go down, bring the needle back up where I went down at the end on the leg of my Y, and again down. So you just keep doing that as long as you want your fly stitch. Now you can vary how close together you want your fly stitch to be. You can also vary the angle. So I could go super short tails here if I wanted to. Or not tails, but legs on the Y. And if you went really close, these could make really nice leaves. And you can vary how, you don't have to have that line out there on the edge that's all exactly the same width apart. You could adjust it. So I could start bringing my stitches in so that I get a curve if I was making a leaf. But I'm still following exactly the same process. I'm coming up on one side, going down on the other, coming out in the middle with my thread under the needle, making however long I want that bottom part of the leg on my Y to be. So that's the fly stitch. I don't always mark, in fact a lot of times I don't mark. If I'm doing it over a seam, like on a quilt, then a lot of times I will press my seam open, use the seam line for the center part of my fly stitch, and then I can usually see the shadow through on my seam allowance, and I can use that for a guide to keep it all even. Now I always thought of the fly stitch as this one, where it's worked basically vertically, but there is a variation that is horizontal. Again, this is not in your cards. I'm still going to come up where I want the top of my Y to be. This time I have 3 parallel lines on the horizontal. So I'm going to go up, however wide I want that Y to be. I'm going to go down, and this time I'm coming up on the middle line to make my V. And then I'm going down to make the leg. I'm going to come back up in the top of the right side of my Y. So it's the same stitch, it's just attaching in a different spot. I'm going to come up on the right side of my Y, go back down however wide I want that top of that to be. I'm making sure the thread is under my needle. So if you need to, wrap it around it so that you're sure it's there under the needle. So this is a horizontal fly stitch. When I'm done, I'm just going to take it down and tie it off on the back. So it's a completely different look, but it's the same stitch.